Blind little black girl was asked to sing at school as a joke, but her voice left the room speechless. The silence in the Roosevelt Elementary auditorium was deafening. 12-year-old Marcus Williams stood motionless in the center of the stage, his small hands gripping the microphone that someone had deliberately set to the wrong height for him. 400 pairs of eyes were watching him, but he couldn't see any of them. "Go, Marcus, sing something rap," shouted Tyler Brooks from the third row, drawing muffled laughter from his friends. "I bet you know all the ghetto songs." Principal Johnson, sitting in the front row beside the school board, made no move to intervene. Her forced smile said everything about her true expectations for this special performance. Marcus had been invited to the talent show just 3 days earlier, when Tyler and his crew discovered that he sang alone during recess, hidden behind the basketball court. "It would be hilarious to put the blind kid on stage," Tyler had whispered to Madison Chun, the student council president. "Imagine the look on everyone's face when he embarrasses himself in front of his parents." What they didn't know was that Marcus Williams wasn't just a 12-year-old boy trying to survive in a school where being different meant being a target. Born with congenital glaucoma that robbed him of his sight at age 4, he had developed something his classmates could never understand: the ability to hear beyond words, to sense the true intentions behind every invitation, every laugh, every kindness. 3 days ago, when Madison approached him with that overly sweet tone to invite him to the talent show, Marcus immediately saw the trap. Her rapid breathing, the tension in her voice, the muffled giggles coming from where Tyler was hiding, everything screamed cruel prank. But instead of refusing or exposing the plan, Marcus did something unexpected. He accepted. "It would be an honor to participate," he replied in a calm voice that made Madison hesitate for a second. "I have a special song I'd like to share with everyone." Now, under the merciless spotlight, Marcus adjusted his posture. His fingers found the right position on the microphone with the precision of someone who had practiced this exact moment hundreds of times over the past 3 days. An almost imperceptible smile played at the corner of his mouth, the kind of smile someone wears when they're holding a secret too powerful to reveal before the time is right. At the back of the auditorium, his grandmother Dolores fidgeted nervously in her seat. She was the only person who truly knew Marcus's talent, the only one who knew what happened when that boy opened his mouth to sing. 3 generations of gospel music ran through the Williams family, and Marcus had inherited not only the gift, but the wisdom of when to use it. If this story of prejudice and underestimation is touching your heart, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to learn how a simple moment of humiliation became the spark for a revolution that would forever change the lives of everyone in that auditorium. Marcus adjusted the microphone with precise movements, ignoring the laughter echoing through the hall. 3 days of preparation had led him to this moment, but the real preparation had begun years earlier when he learned to turn every humiliation into fuel for something greater. "Everyone quiet," Madison Chun shouted into the auxiliary microphone, trying to maintain the appearance of control. "Let's give Marcus a chance." The deliberate pause before "give him a chance" drew more laughter from the students who understood the subtext perfectly. Tyler Brooks couldn't contain his satisfaction. For months, he had watched Marcus singing alone during recess, always hidden, always vulnerable. The idea of putting him on the main stage before 400 people, including parents and teachers, seemed like the perfect prank to cement his reputation as the school clown. "Oh my God, this is so tense," Tyler whispered to his friends in the third row. "I bet $5 he'll cry before he sings a note." What Tyler didn't know was that Marcus Williams had been born into a family where music wasn't just entertainment, it was emotional survival. His mother, Sarah Williams, had been a church singer before complications during childbirth caused congenital glaucoma that would rob Marcus of his sight at age 4. During the early years after the diagnosis, when Marcus struggled to accept his new reality, it was music that became his bridge to the world. Dolores Williams, his grandmother, was the first to realize that Marcus's loss of sight had heightened his other senses in extraordinary ways. By the age of 6, he could identify people by their breathing. By 8, he could distinguish genuine emotions from fake ones just by the tone of someone's voice. By 10, his musical memory had become nothing short of phenomenal. He could hear a song once and reproduce it perfectly with his own variations and improvements. "What are you waiting for, Marcus?" someone in the audience shouted. "Did you forget the words?" Principal Johnson checked her watch again, her impatience clear. She had agreed to Marcus's special performance mainly because Madison Chun had insisted, arguing that it would be important for inclusion. In truth, Johnson knew exactly what the real goal was. She had seen similar setups throughout her 15-year career in education, different students being included in ways that only highlighted their differences. Marcus took a deep breath, remembering the conversation he had with his grandmother the night before. Dolores had held his small hands and said, "Son, they think your blindness is a weakness. They don't know it's your superpower. Tomorrow you'll show them something they'll never forget." During the 3 days since Madison's invitation, Marcus had done something none of the organizers expected. He had quietly researched every person who would be in the auditorium. He knew the names of the school board members. He knew which parents had recently lost their jobs, which families were going through difficult divorces, and which students were struggling with problems they hid behind fake smiles. Tyler Brooks, for example, wasn't just the arrogant bully everyone saw. Marcus had discovered through conversations overheard in the hallways that Tyler was under intense pressure from his father to get into a prestigious university. His average grades and lack of talents left him desperate for social distinction, even if it meant humiliating others. Madison Chun, the seemingly kind organizer, carried her own burden. The daughter of immigrants who worked 16 hours a day to keep a small restaurant afloat, she had learned that leading through fear and exclusion was a way to ensure she would never be excluded herself. Even Principal Johnson had her vulnerabilities. Marcus knew she was under pressure from the school board due to low parent satisfaction ratings and that any complaint could jeopardize her position. But there was something none of them knew about Marcus Williams, something he had recently discovered that would change everything. During weeks of discreet research, aided by his extraordinary ability to overhear unintentional conversations, Marcus had uncovered information about each of his tormentors they would never imagine anyone possessed. The microphone was finally adjusted. The auditorium had fallen into an expectant silence. But unlike the respectful silence that precedes a highly anticipated performance, it was the cruel silence of an audience waiting for a spectacle of humiliation. Marcus smiled slightly. His right hand discreetly touched the small device in his pocket, a digital recorder that had been documenting relevant conversations for weeks. His left hand found the exact position where he knew his voice would resonate with maximum power through the auditorium sound system. Each new humiliation over the past few months had only fueled the growing determination within him, a silent force being nourished by the very injustice they sought to impose. What those privileged people didn't know was that every act of contempt was signing their own downfall, and that the blind boy they underestimated possessed weapons far more powerful than any of them could imagine. What no one in the Roosevelt Elementary auditorium knew was that Marcus Williams had spent the last 3 days executing the most meticulous plan of his life. While Tyler Brooks and Madison Chun celebrated their perfect prank in advance, Marcus had turned his apparent vulnerability into the greatest weapon he possessed. It had all started on Monday when Madison had issued the invitation in that overly sweet voice of hers. Marcus not only accepted, he asked for details. "What kind of song do you guys think I should sing? Any specific suggestions?" His seemingly naive curiosity caused Madison to let her guard down completely. "Oh, something authentic, you know," Madison had replied, her words laced with thinly veiled prejudice. "Maybe something that represents your culture." Marcus smiled inwardly. Every word was being recorded by the small device he always carried, a tool his grandmother, Dolores, had given him to document any bullying. What had started as protection had become his secret weapon. Over the next 3 days, Marcus carried out an intelligence operation that would impress professional agents. His extraordinary ability to listen to unintentionally revealed conversations, combined with his photographic memory for sounds, allowed him to gather devastating information about each of his tormentors. Tyler Brooks, Marcus discovered, was not just the privileged bully he appeared to be. On Tuesday, hidden behind the lockers during recess, Marcus heard Tyler crying on a phone call. "Dad, I promise I'll get into military academy. I know you spent a lot of money on private lessons." The broken voice revealed a side of Tyler he would never show in public. The crushing pressure of a military father who saw his son as a constant disappointment. Madison. Chun carried her own dark secrets. Marcus discovered that she had forged participation certificates for extracurricular activities to impress colleges, using family connections to obtain letters of recommendation from organizations where she had never actually worked. Even worse, she had deliberately sabotaged other Asian students at the school, spreading rumors about them to eliminate competition for minority scholarships. But the most shocking discovery came on Wednesday when Marcus overheard a conversation between Madison and Tyler in the locker room. They weren't just planning to humiliate him at the talent show. They were secretly recording videos to post on social media, planning to turn his humiliation into viral content to gain followers. "Imagine how many likes we'll get with a blind little girl getting embarrassed," Tyler had said, his casual cruelty making even Madison momentarily uncomfortable. "Tyler, isn't that a little too much?" Madison had hesitated. "Relax, Madison. It's just humor. He shouldn't have agreed to do it if he can't handle the pressure." Every word was meticulously documented on Marcus's recorder, along with precise timestamps and detailed notes about context and location. But Marcus didn't stop at collecting evidence. He went further. On Wednesday evening, sitting in the small but cozy kitchen of his home, Marcus shared everything with his grandmother, Dolores. At 72, Dolores Williams had seen more injustice than she cared to remember. But she had also learned that the best way to fight prejudice was through strategic preparation and the undeniable demonstration of excellence. "My grandson," Dolores said, her experienced hands organizing the evidence Marcus had collected. "Your mother and I have always known that you have a special gift. Not just your voice, but your ability to really see people for who they truly are." Dolores then revealed something that would completely change Marcus's strategy. For years, she had quietly documented instances of discrimination at the school, building a detailed file of incidents the administration had ignored or downplayed. As a longtime volunteer at the school library, she had access to information and relationships that could prove crucial. "There's something you need to know about Principal Johnson," Dolores said, her voice low but firm. "She's under investigation by the school district for mismanagement of funds intended for inclusion programs. If one more incident of discrimination happens on her watch, especially something that becomes a public scandal, she could lose her job." Marcus processed this information with the same strategic precision he had applied to his entire plan. Principal Johnson wasn't just a passive observer. She was an active participant in a system that allowed and even encouraged discrimination. And now she had as much to lose as anyone else. On Thursday, Marcus made his most daring move. Using a library phone during lunch, he discreetly contacted 3 local media outlets, including the television station that covered school events and 2 influential community blogs. His message was simple yet compelling. "A special situation is unfolding at the Roosevelt Elementary Talent Show tonight. You'll want to document this." Marcus didn't specifically mention discrimination or bullying. That would come out naturally. He simply created enough anticipation to ensure his performance would have a much larger audience than Tyler and Madison imagined. Throughout Thursday, Marcus watched his antagonists with a new perspective. Every cruel comment, every laugh at his expense only fueled his growing determination. Tyler even pretended to trip him in the hallway, knocking his books into a puddle of rainwater. "Oops, sorry, Marcus," Tyler said loudly enough for everyone to hear, his fake concern masking obvious satisfaction. "You should be more careful where you walk." Marcus gathered his wet books in silence, but his mind was calculating. Each additional humiliation would only make his revenge more satisfying and justified. Madison, for her part, had begun spreading concerns about Marcus to other students. "I hope he doesn't get too embarrassed tonight," she said during lunch, her voice dripping with fake compassion. Sometimes special people don't understand when they're being included out of pity. Now, on stage in the auditorium, Marcus adjusted the microphone with precise movements that revealed meticulous preparation. His right hand discreetly touched the recorder in his pocket. 3 days of devastating evidence documented and ready to be revealed at the right moment. Tyler Brooks, sitting in the third row with his friends, had no idea that every cruel word he had spoken over the past 3 days was about to be played back publicly. Madison Chun, organizing papers at the sound table, had no idea that her confessions about academic fraud would soon be in the hands of the proper school authorities. Principal Johnson, checking her watch again impatiently, didn't know that representatives from local media were already discreetly positioned in the auditorium, alerted by an anonymous tip about a special event that was about to unfold. But there was something even Marcus hadn't fully anticipated, something he would discover only in the next few moments, that would transform his carefully planned revenge into something far greater than personal retribution. As he adjusted his posture at center stage, an unexpected energy began to take shape in the auditorium, as if the very air were charged with anticipation for a revolution no one saw coming. Marcus adjusted the microphone one last time and smiled with the serenity of someone about to rewrite history. "Before I sing," he said, his clear voice echoing through the silent auditorium, "I'd like to share something special with all of you." Tyler Brooks shifted uncomfortably in his seat. That wasn't part of the plan. Over the past 3 days, since I was so kindly invited to this talent show, Marcus continued, emphasizing the word invited with subtle irony, I've learned a lot about my fellow students and about how some people view students like me. Marcus took the small digital recorder out of his pocket and held it up for everyone to see. Fortunately, I have an exceptional auditory memory, and I also have a habit of documenting interesting conversations. The blood drained from Madison Chun's face. Tyler Brooks tried to stand up, but his friends pulled him back into his chair, realizing that running away would only confirm his guilt. Tyler Brooks, for example, Marcus said, pressing play on the recorder. Tyler's voice echoed through the auditorium with crystal clarity. Imagine how many likes we'll get with a blind little girl getting embarrassed. A murmur of shock rippled through the audience. Parents exchanged horrified looks. Tyler tried to protest, but Marcus wasn't finished. "And Madison Chun, our dedicated student council president," Marcus continued, his tone calm as he played another devastating clip. "It's just humor. He shouldn't have accepted if he can't handle the pressure." Madison was visibly shaking now. Her parents, seated in the second row, looked at her with a mixture of disappointment and shame that cut deeper than any punishment. But Marcus had saved the best for last. "And our esteemed Principal Johnson," he said, turning directly toward her, "who authorized this special presentation, knowing full well what the real purpose was." The next recording made Principal Johnson turn pale as a sheet. It was her own voice, captured during a private phone call. "Let the boys have a little fun. At least it keeps them out of more serious trouble. And frankly, if the special boy can't handle a little fun, maybe he's not right for our school." The auditorium erupted in indignant murmurs. Reporters who had arrived discreetly began taking frantic notes. Parents stood up, some demanding explanations. "But wait," Marcus said, raising his hand to quiet the crowd. "I'm not finished yet." He connected the tape recorder to the school sound system, and his amplified voice filled every corner of the auditorium. "Tyler, you mentioned that I should know all the ghetto songs. Well, here's one I learned recently." Marcus began singing Amazing Grace in a voice that instantly silenced the room. But this wasn't the traditional version, and it was a sophisticated jazz interpretation that showcased not only extraordinary vocal talent, but deep musical knowledge and flawless technique that rivaled professional singers. Every note was executed with mathematical precision, every modulation revealing years of secret training that no one had suspected. The performance was technically flawless and emotionally devastating, proving beyond doubt that Marcus possessed more musical talent than any other student at the school. When he finished, there was complete silence. Then slowly one person began to clap, then another. Within seconds, the entire auditorium rose to its feet in a standing ovation that lasted a full 5 minutes. Tyler Brooks began to cry, not out of humiliation, but out of deep shame for realizing the monstrosity of what he had tried to do. Madison Chun hid her face in her hands, finally understanding she had crossed a moral line that could not be undone. But Marcus wasn't finished. "Principal Johnson," he said, his voice now carrying an authority that made even the adults pay attention. I would like to inform you that copies of these recordings have already been sent to the district superintendent, the Parent-Teacher Association, and the 3 local media outlets present tonight. The principal tried to stand, but her legs gave way. She knew her career was over. I've also uncovered some interesting information about the misuse of funds intended for inclusion programs. Marcus continued relentlessly. Documents showing how resources meant to support students like me were redirected to office renovations and performance bonuses for certain employees. The final revelation was like a bomb in the auditorium. School board members whispered urgently among themselves. The scandal was no longer just about bullying. It was about administrative corruption. Marcus placed the microphone back on the stand with the same calmness with which he had begun. The real tragedy, he said, is not that they tried to humiliate me. It's that they missed the chance to celebrate genuine talent because they were too busy protecting their own prejudices. As he walked toward the stage exit, Marcus paused and turned one last time to the audience. To every student who ever felt different, excluded, or underestimated, your voice matters. Your talent is real, and never let anyone convince you otherwise. The ovation that followed was thunderous. Parents rushed the stage wanting to meet Marcus in person. Reporters scrambled for interviews. And in the middle of all that chaos, 3 people sat frozen in disbelief. Tyler, Madison, and Principal Johnson, now forced to face the crushing consequences of underestimating the wrong person. What none of them could have imagined was that tonight was only the beginning. Marcus's recordings wouldn't just end careers and reputations. They would trigger a full investigation, exposing a pattern of discrimination that went far beyond one school, reshaping the entire district forever. 6 months after that unforgettable night at Roosevelt Elementary, Marcus Williams sat inside the most prestigious recording studio in the city, perfecting the final notes of his first professional album. The same hands that Tyler Brooks once mocked now created music that moved thousands across the country. The investigation sparked by Marcus's recordings had spread like wildfire through the district. Principal Johnson didn't just lose her position, she was formally charged with mismanagement of public funds and systematic discrimination. Her frantic denials only worsened the scandal when more recordings surfaced, exposing years of biased remarks captured by other students who finally found the courage to speak out. Tyler Brooks faced a downfall his family never thought possible. The viral video from the talent show, showing his cruel taunts followed by Marcus's breathtaking performance, turned him into a national symbol of privilege and bullying. Universities rescinded admission offers. His military father, humiliated in the public eye, was forced into early retirement. Tyler spent months in intensive therapy, facing for the first time the real consequences of his own actions. Madison Chun wasn't spared either. Investigators discovered she had cheated on academic papers, forged recommendation letters, and fabricated achievements. The exposure cost her every college acceptance she'd earned and led to criminal charges. Her family's restaurant faced boycotts organized by communities refusing to tolerate discrimination, forcing them to sell and relocate. But Marcus wasn't driven by revenge. What he exposed inspired systemic change that helped countless other students. The district implemented strict anti-discrimination rules, mandatory staff training, and an anonymous reporting system to protect students from retaliation. His story sparked documentaries, academic studies, and policy reforms across the country. Top music universities competed to offer him full scholarships, but Marcus chose one known for its dedication to social justice and inclusion. When Roosevelt Elementary was renamed the Dolores Williams School in honor of his grandmother, Marcus returned as the keynote speaker at graduation. On the same stage where he was once mocked, he now stood before students, parents, and educators from around the nation. 6 months ago, some of you tried to silence me, Marcus said, his voice calm but powerful. Today, my voice reaches people all over the world. The difference isn't what happened to me, but what I chose to do with what happened. In the crowd, several chairs remained empty. Tyler was in a rehabilitation center. Madison faced legal proceedings in another state. Former Principal Johnson watched from home, unemployed and awaiting trial. Marcus ended his speech with words that soon went viral. They tried to break me because they thought I was fragile. They found out I was unbreakable. True strength isn't about never falling. It's about using every fall as a springboard to rise higher. Marcus's success grew far beyond music. He created a foundation providing free instruments and lessons to children in underserved communities. His debut single, Unsilenced Voice, raised enough funds to rebuild music programs in 50 schools nationwide. The real lesson in his story wasn't just personal victory. It was proof that one act of courage can protect thousands. Marcus showed that the best revenge isn't destroying your enemies, but building something so great that their attempts to tear you down become meaningless. Today, when Marcus performs in sold-out arenas worldwide, he always dedicates one song to every Tyler, Madison, and Principal Johnson, who once tried to silence him. Thank you for giving us the motivation we needed to prove you were completely wrong about our potential. If this story of courage and transformation touched your heart, subscribe to the channel for more stories about people who turned injustice into inspiration and proved that success truly is the best revenge of all.